Hi everyone! My name is Katy, and thank you for joining me for another reading journal video. Today we are catching up on some of my reading journal spreads, so let's get started. So today we are working on my books from September. Yes, I know that I'm a bit behind on my 2024 reading journal, but that's all right. I will catch up and share it with you all. So as always, we are doing my bookshelf spread and coloring in the rating colors for each of the books that I read. And as you can tell, I have completely filled up this spread, and that is why I did a second spread. I'll have that video linked down below. But I basically just made a continuation of my bookshelf spread later in my journal. Next, we are doing my Zodiac Favorites. And I read a lot of really good books in September, so it was honestly kind of hard to choose. But for the Virgo season, I chose Belladonna, and for Libra, I chose The Crimson Moth or Heartless Hunter. That book has like 2 titles depending on what country you're in. And then flipping ahead, we're filling in some of my trackers. So I reread Fireborne, the first book in the Aurelian cycle, and then I checked off a few books from my physical TBR, and I also checked off a few books from my book bingo. So a book about books, a political fantasy, a cozy fantasy, a sapphic romance, and a book with a revolutionary theme. And then for my monthly stats page, I filled in my September stats. And September was a great reading month for me. I read 8 books, 3 physical, 3 ebooks, and 2 audiobooks. And most of those were books that I owned. And then flipping forward to my year of adventure tracker, my September prompt was to read a cozy or comforting book. And I chose Bookshops and Bonedust for that. And then it's time to fill out my September cover page. So like I said, I read 8 books and most of them are pretty good. My average rating was 4 stars, which is really good. And then this was also the autumn equinox month for the magical readathon. So I'm flipping past the spreads that I made for the readathon. I did a whole video for these spreads, which will be linked down below. And then it is time to do my book reviews. So I read Bookshops and Bonedust, like I said, which is the prequel to Legends and Lattes. And I ended up really enjoying that one, and I did a whole spread for it. I also read When the Moon Hatched, which I also did a spread for, so I will get more to that. It was very complicated and complex, but I still enjoyed it. It was a 3.5 star for me. And then I read The Phoenix Keeper, which was a 3 star for me. I really liked certain things about this book, but other things just kind of frustrated me. Our main character is, I think, like my age. She's 27-ish, which is how old I am. But she kind of acted and thought like a teenager, and it was a bit infantilizing to social anxiety, I felt. So I didn't love that. But like I said, there were things that I still really liked. I liked the magical zoo aspect a lot. And then I read Heartless, which I really loved. It was a villain origin story for the Queen of Hearts, and I did another whole spread for this one. And I read Belladonna, which I gave 5 stars and absolutely loved, and this one also got a full spread, so I'll talk about it in a minute. And same with The Crimson Moth or Heartless Hunter, depending on where you are. That one was also a 5 star, and I will talk about it more in a little bit. And then flipping forward for the last 2 reviews, like I said, I read Fireborne, the first book in the Aurelian cycle, and that was a reread. It's one of my favorite books, my favorite series of all time. So of course, I really enjoyed reading that one. And then some friends and I read The Cinnamon Bun Bookstore, which, is not really my vibe. It's a contemporary romance. But I had expected it to be more like fall vibes and to be more cinnamon buns. And it wasn't really what I was expecting, but that was okay. I gave it 2 stars. I did find that the person behind the plot, who set the plot in motion, that person, I found that was a weird person to have done that. I don't want to say too much because spoilers, but if you know, you know. But yeah, that was the last book that I read for the month. And then I filled the empty space on this page with a quote, so I'm adding some very autumnal, bookish stickers on that cute little kitty. And the quote that I chose was from Bookshops Bonedust. And the quote was, "Every book is a little mirror, and sometimes you look into it and see someone else looking back." The main character in Bookshops Bonedust, she is kind of learning the love of books and learning how special reading a book can be. And I thought that this quote really illustrated how I feel about books and the way that you get to experience stories through books. And yeah, I just really liked it, so I chose to put it here. And I'm moving on to the first spread, a 1-page spread for Bookshops Bonedust as well. And I went with a very green and brown dark academia vibe here because we are in a book about books. And as always, my stickers and washi tape are from Maragona Suli Art, and then the green washi tape is from Notebook Therapy. And I really like how this spread came together. So, as I've kind of mentioned, we are following Viv, an orc assassin character who gets injured and needs to recover in this little town. And while she's recovering, she finds herself in this little bookshop, and she's never really cared about books before, so she's learning the love of reading and immersing herself in stories. And we get to meet a bunch of new characters, including my favorite, an owl dog named Pot Roast. And much like Legends and Lattes, it is very cozy. You have these little dilemmas come up and then they solve them. And it all just feels like a cozy break from a D&D campaign. That's how it feels, at least to me. And it's not something I read a ton of, but I always enjoy this kind of vibe when I do read it. That being said, I do need to be in the right mindset to read cozy fantasy because I can get kind of bored, I guess, because it is very cozy and slice of life feeling. So the quote that I chose for this spread is definitely my favorite quote from the whole book, and it made me cry when I read this part of the book. It's at the end where she's saying goodbye to some of the people that she's met. And because it is a prequel, you already know that she's going to have to say goodbye to these people because they aren't in the other book. But it still hurt. So the quote is, "Because I'm headed down the hill and you're headed up, I'm just glad we chanced to meet on the way." Oh, I just love it because there's so many people in your life that are like that. That don't stay in your life for a long time, but you're so happy to have met them. I can think of so many people I know, from college or school. And yeah, I just really, really enjoyed this. I would definitely recommend these books if you enjoy cozy fantasy or if you want to get into cozy fantasy. I have really enjoyed them so far, and I'm excited for the next book in this series. And overall, I'm super happy with how this spread came out. I think it's really, really pretty. And I don't do the dark academia vibes very often, but I always love how they turn out. I also love the little smaller stickers that I added to the bottom. Of course, that big shelf, but the little moth and the seal and the bow and everything, I just really, really enjoy how it turned out. So I'm just finishing off some dots and sparkles with my green marker, and then I am flipping forward to the next spread. So this next spread is so fun and joyful looking, even though this book made me cry. So this is for the book Heartless, which, as I said, is a retelling, not really, it's more of like a origin story for the Queen of Hearts. And because it's an origin story for a villain, you know it's not going to be the happiest of stories. But there gets a point in this book that is very happy and wholesome and sweet. And honestly, if I reread it, I'd probably just stop there because I really fell in love with these characters and it broke my heart to see them sad. But basically, in this world, we have the regular, Hearts and the White Rabbit and Hatta and all of those characters that we know from the Alice in Wonderland stories. But it's just told a little bit differently. So our Queen of Hearts, her name is Catherine, or Kath, and that's my name, so I always enjoy books where they have my name. And that was one fun part about this book, but I just really enjoyed the storytelling. It was so whimsical and it really fit with the Alice in Wonderland aesthetics. And we're in the land of hearts, and Kath is a young girl who wants to be a baker. She is really good at baking, and her dream is to open a bakery with her best friend and servant, Marianne. But her parents have other ideas. She is the daughter of a marquess, and her parents want her to be courted by the King of Hearts. And she does not want that. He is kind of like this goofy little guy who really does enjoy her baking, but is a coward. He doesn't actually like her for who she is or anything. And she doesn't like him, so of course she does not want this to happen. And there's all kinds of things going on. There's also a Jabberwock, of course, who is terrorizing the town that is not able to be explained. And in the beginning of this book, Kath goes to what she doesn't know is a black and white ball, but her mom gets her to wear a red dress, so she stands out among all of the other people at the ball and catches the king's eye. But thankfully, during that whole situation, a very handsome Joker takes the attention away from her, and that character of the Joker ends up becoming close to Kath, and I love him so much. His name is Jest, and because he works for the king as the king's Joker, he is around while the king is trying to court Kath. And Kath is doing everything she can to get the king to slow down and eventually, hopefully, not actually court her or not propose to her, because it would be very hard to say no to a king, of course, because she wants her dream of owning the bakery to come to fruition. Through this all, we get to meet a bunch of iconic characters, like I said, the White Rabbit, the Mad Hatter, Mr. Caterpillar, the Raven. And it's just really fun the way that Marissa Meyer has realized this world and put it all together, because little things would be said and you could pick up on them and be like, oh, I remember that, or oh, that's so funny. It's so tongue-in-cheek to say what she just said because of how it will impact her future. I'm trying to be pretty vague because the story goes wild. And I just really enjoyed it. We do, like I said, toward the end, we get to a point where you think she could be happy if it just ended here, or if this all just worked out her life could have been so different and she could have been happy and had everything she wanted. But of course, that did not happen, and she does, of course, become the Queen of Hearts in some way. So I definitely recommend this, especially if you like Alice in Wonderland at all, or if you just like retellings or origin stories. It's very creative, very fun, very whimsical, and the only reason why it didn't get 5 stars from me is because that last 20% of the book where things kind of, go to crap, it just went kind of fast, I guess. I still really enjoyed it. It was just kind of like a whirlwind of all these things being thrown at her, and some of it felt a little bit jarring, I guess. But with that said, of course, I did really enjoy it. The quote that I chose for this spread was, "A heart once stolen can never be taken back." And that is said about Kath and Jest, and it just makes my heart hurt a little bit thinking about them because I did really like those characters. And then the other quote that I chose is toward the end of the book. I guess you could call it like a prophecy. And it is, "One to be a murderer, one to be a martyr, one to be a monarch, one to go mad." And if you didn't notice already, these amazing stickers and washi tape are all Alice in Wonderland themed. And they are all from Simply Gilded when they did their Alice in Wonderland collection. And I haven't had a chance to use most of them yet, but they look so cute and I'm so happy I had a chance to use them. I love the little bunnies. I love the washi tapes, especially the one at the bottom, the Cheshire Cat, the teacups, the cupcakes. It was just perfect for this book, and I'm so happy with how this whole spread turned out. So that was Heartless, and now we are flipping forward to the next spread, which will be for Belladonna. And I really love how this spread turned out. So I'm using washi tape from Notebook Therapy, and I'm also adding in some stamps behind that washi tape just to add a bit more decoration. All of this is from Notebook Therapy. And I love these blue colors. They're just absolutely gorgeous. And I'm pairing them with this fan art sticker from Coralie Renards of our main character Signa and the character Death. And I really love this art so much. It honestly is one of the things that inspired me to finally read this book, and I am so happy I did because it was a 5-star. And these other stickers that I'm using are also from Notebook Therapy, and I really love the gold details of them. They are so pretty, and the stained glass kind of vibe fits with this Regency manor where the story takes place. I also feel like these moody blue kind of tones fit with the whole theme of death. So yeah, I just really love all of the stickers and everything in this spread. So Belladonna follows our character Signa, and it opens up with her as a baby surviving a mass killing of all of the people, including her parents, at a ball thrown at her parents' manor. But she survives, and that is where she meets the character Death, who's intrigued to see a little baby surviving this mass execution or poisoning. And that is how it all opens up. And then she has jumped around from family to family as her guardians, but all of them are pretty selfish and not the best people because she's waiting until she gets her inheritance and gets to inherit her parents' estate. But mysteriously, these guardians keep dying, and she's kind of looked at as, is she cursed, or like what's wrong with her? Why do the people around her keep dying? And all this time, she's also learning about her own ability to withstand the effects of the Belladonna plant specifically. And she's also learned that when she consumes a specific amount of this Belladonna plant, she can summon the character Death. And so she's kind of figuring out why she's able to do all that, and she ends up having another guardian die, and she is taken to her next guardian, which is an estranged, like, uncle, I believe he is. And she goes to this nice estate, but it's all very mysterious and she has no idea what's in store for her. And when she gets to the new estate, there are ghosts that have been seen. The lady of the house has recently passed, and her cousin is mysteriously sick all of a sudden. So it seems again like death has followed her. But there's also mysteries of why these things are happening, and she gets to, try to find the answers to some of those mysteries. It's all very gothic feeling and dark, and it's also counterbalanced with this being a Regency-inspired story, and our main character, Signa, is also preparing to debut in society, and so she's learning, like, manners and, societal expectations and how to be a lady and all of those things, and I really enjoyed the kind of mix of the two and thought it worked really well. And I don't want to say too much, so because I definitely recommend this book, and it was so fun, even though some of the twists and turns I had kind of expected, there were some that got me, which is always fun. So I really love some of the realizations that we have toward the end of the book as far as the answers to our mysteries, the answers about who is this Death character, why is Signa the way she is, all those kinds of things. And we also are set up for the second book, which is called Foxglove. But yeah, that was Belladonna. The vibes are unmatched. The romance I really enjoyed. The secondary characters I also enjoyed. The Regency aesthetics mixed with the Gothic vibes. It just all really worked for me, and it's like a new favorite for me. And of course, I also, like I said, love how this spread turned out. All of the colors and the golds and everything are really working. And the quote that I chose for this spread is, "You must not allow yourself to be consumed so thoroughly by death. It is not selfish to live." And of course, I just love that. The last line, "It is not selfish to live," is a great quote. So yeah, that is Belladonna. And then I finished off this spread by filling in some of that blank space with these different holographic little stickers from a notebook therapy sticker roll that I have. And I just did all of these little stars and added in some dots with my marker. And I think that it really finished off the spread really well, and it looks so cute. So then flipping to the next spread, I also had another favorite of the month in the book, The Crimson Moth. And the version that I read was the UK version, so it was called The Crimson Moth. But in the United States, it's called Heartless Hunter. And I'm starting off with some washi tapes. The skinny one is from Simply Gilded, and then the others are from Notebook Therapy. And I love the vibe that these washi tapes created. This light purple color is like one of my favorite colors, so I definitely enjoyed using them here. And then I'm pairing those purples with this darker moon phase washi tape with the scalloped edges. And this is one of my favorite washi tapes that I own. So I'm always happy to use it, but I'm also like afraid of running out. And I'm pairing that with these two witchy stickers that I've had for a really long time that I got from an Etsy shop that I'll have linked down below. But they're like purpley pink with witch hats, and then the one on the bottom has moths or butterflies, which worked perfectly with a story called The Crimson Moth. And then the one on the right has like a love spell, and they're both like glittery, sparkly, so they're just really, really pretty, and the art's really beautiful. And then I'm doing a little moth sticker in the bottom corner because, again, the Crimson Moth. But this is a story about a witch, so those stickers worked as well for that. And I absolutely loved this book. It is upper YA, and I think it's so good. If you like romantasy, I think that you would really enjoy this. We follow a witch girl who is in a society that recently overthrew its witch queens and therefore is very skeptical of witches in general. And the new government is very against witches, so much so that they are like actively seeking out witches and killing them. And it's kind of, intense in that way. And our main character, she is in hiding, and in this magic system, witches use blood magic, and when they cut themselves to get the blood for their magic, they leave like silver scars on their body. So one way to tell if a witch is a witch is if they have scars on their body like that. And I thought this was so clever, and it also just makes me laugh kind of every time I think about it. But our main character, to stay in hiding, she has never done that. Instead, she uses menstrual blood, which is just so smart, right? I don't know, it just made me laugh every time I kind of thought about it because that's a great idea. So she's very thrifty in that way, and she also has really good people, really good friends around her that are helping her stay hidden. And she is also trying to help the other witches that she knows are still around, maybe get some vengeance for some of them and help them escape. But while she's doing these acts of trying to help witches escape, there are other things happening, such as witch hunters being brutally murdered and stuff like that we don't really have an explanation for. And so it's one of the mysteries of the book is what's going on there, who's doing that, etc. And part of her plan to free a specific witch is to get close to this guy named Gideon, who's kind of our other main character, who just happens to be like one of the top witch hunters. And she's trying to like basically use their fake relationship with him to get what she wants, which is like intel on the prison basically. But he himself is kind of skeptical about her anyway. Her name is Rune, by the way. And he's kind of skeptical about her anyway, so he's also kind of wanting to get into some kind of fake relationship thing to get closer to her and potentially find out if she is a witch, and more so if she is the Crimson Moth, who they believe is the person behind those witch hunter murders. So we have that all happening, and their relationship is kind of complex. They, of course, because it's a book, start to develop actual feelings for each other, which makes them all confused. And their loyalties get all confused. And of course, a bunch of things happen, and we learn a bunch of things about the reality of what's happening, I guess I would say. And I just really enjoyed it. The next book comes out in 2025, and I believe it's a duology. And I am very much so looking forward to that. The romance, I thought, was done really well. There's pretty good side characters, and things that we learn about the side characters and things that happen to the side characters are kind of wild. So I enjoyed that also, just to add complexity to the actual story. And the quote that I chose for this spread was, "You are not the things that happen to you," which I believe is said from Rune to Gideon, because Gideon himself has a bunch of emotional trauma that he's working through. And that is another thing I would say about this book, is definitely check trigger warnings, because it does deal with some heavier topics, like obviously murder, but abuse, trauma, sexual coercion, stuff like that. So definitely check trigger warnings. There are some dark themes, but I personally really enjoyed it. And like I said, if you like romantasy, this is a great upper YA fantasy romance. So yeah. And then moving on to the next spread, like I said, I reread one of my favorite books called Fireborne, which is the first book in the Aurelian cycle, which is a YA political fantasy dragon trilogy. And I love it so much, and I was so happy to reread Fireborne. And for this spread, I used some of my favorite Maragona Sully art stickers, which are these adorable dragons, and they're all in these kind of autumnal, orangey, brown, yellow tones. So I paired them with these starry moon kind of desert, I guess, color palette of washi tapes from Notebook Therapy, and I think it all came together really, really pretty. And definitely orange is not a color palette that I use very often, so I was happy to find a way to pair these orange stickers with a washi tape that I already had. Now, Fireborne is a story about revolutions and what happens after the revolution, and what happens when after the revolution isn't necessarily better than before, I guess is how I would put it. And it's inspired by a lot of things from antiquity, poems like the Aeneid, and then specifically Plato's Republic and the Noble Lie. So if you know anything about those things, it is heavily inspired by all of that. So Fireborne follows two main characters. The first one is Lee, and Lee is kind of like an Anastasia type character. He is of noble blood, and he was the son of one of the previous royal families of dragon riders that used to rule the society that we're in. And he was essentially saved, the only one of his family who was saved on Palace Day, which was the day where the revolution started and all of the noble families were murdered. And he goes into hiding as a boy in an orphanage, and that is where he meets Annie, who is our other main character, whose family was basically peasants, and her family, she had to watch them be murdered, basically, by the previous government. But, Annie's been his best friend for their whole childhood into their adulthood. So, she's noticed some things about him. But he's still undercover and nobody really knows about his true identity. And now they are grown up and both wanting to be dragon guardians of the new society. The dragons in this world are more like horses, where they don't like speak or anything, but they, they're still very cool and very dragony, which I of course love. And our kind of main guy of the government, Atreus, it was his whole idea to start this new kind of society where previously, there were nobles and peasants, and the nobles were on dragons and the peasants were workers, basically. But in the new society, everybody has to take a ability test, and then they are sorted into different metal levels. So like bronze, silver, gold, etc. With the dragon riders being at the top class and bronze people being the bottom class, and essentially what would have been like peasants or workers in the previous society. So while people now aren't born into their class, they are still tested and judged and put into a class. And so we get to see, although this isn't a society structured by birthright, there is still a lot of disparity and inequality in this world. And it really touches on those themes of class disparity. And like I said, it shows you a world after a revolution and makes you kind of confront some of your notions about maybe other revolutions that you've read about in fantasy books. And I could go on forever talking about this because the other themes that are really touched on in this series are censorship and propaganda for this new government, trying to instill that they are the right way to do things to the people who are still a bit on edge from the revolution. And all in all, I think it is so good. If you like antiquity, if you like, epic poetry, if you like dragons, if you like politics, especially like revolutionary politics, I think that you would really enjoy this. It is YA, but the themes are so elevated that I think anybody could enjoy it. And I cannot recommend it enough. It is my favorite book series for a reason, of course. And the characters are so good. They are so fleshed out, so deep. I love the characters so much. And being back in the first book, like when you love a trilogy, especially like an epic trilogy where so much happens, when you go back to that first book after having read the third book, your heart just swells seeing how little these characters truly know and knowing what is yet in store for them. And that is definitely how I felt rereading this book. That being said, my favorite character in the Fireborne series is Power. So if you know, you know. He's kind of an antagonistic character, but his arc and everything about him, So being back in the first book with him, it made my heart happy to know how much he has yet to grow as I reread the series. So the quote that I chose for this spread is one of my favorites from the whole series. It is about our character Annie, about her and her dragon. And it is, as she turned, it was revealed by her tread that she was Fireborne. I love this book. So I will stop blabbing about it and talk about the spread. I really love how the spread came out. I ended up using my gold Uniball gel pen to add in some gold accents to match the washi tape. And overall, it is one of my favorite spreads that I've done all year. So then, flipping forward, we are doing another dragon book, and this is the book When the Moon Hatched, and this was weird. I think it is kind of wild how popular this book got after reading it, because It is a very complex story that's happening. It is a complex world that we're in, and the whole plot of the story is kind of all over the place, honestly. In this world, there are, dragons rising to the sky and becoming moons, moons falling and hatching dragons. There's like elemental magic that is barely touched on, which I thought that was kind of a bummer. And we also have some wibbly wobbly timey-wimey stuff happening with the story itself, in that we have like a main story happening, but then we also have these journal entries from a character that we assume is in the past. And we don't know who that character is or how they tie into our main story, but of course you find out more as the story goes on. And I actually really did like how the wibbly wobbly timey-wimey stuff happened and how the characters were connected. I thought that was pretty interesting, and that actually made my rating of the book higher. Is the last 30% of the book, I would say. The middle part drags a lot, but basically, our main plot line is that we have a main character named Rave who is an assassin, and we're not completely sure of her history, and it seems like she's not really sure either. And we also have people kind of coming up to her throughout the story saying things to her, and she's like, "What are you talking about? I don't know you." So of course that is all explained as the story goes on. And she is seeking revenge after watching her friend get murdered. There's a lot of murder in the books that I'm talking about today. But anyway, so she ends up being rescued by this guy named Khan. And Khan himself is one of those people who recognizes her, even though she has never seen him before in her life. She is kind of not totally about it, so she escapes him, and then she is found by this other clan of people who thinks that she's the answer to a prophecy. And so the guys in this clan have trials to become her husband. Like I said, the plot is kind of wild. It goes all kinds of places. And most of the time I was like, I don't know what is going on, but I was kind of living for some of it, not all of it. And then also the writing is very trying to be lyrical. I don't think it's the most successful in its poeticness. It sometimes is what is she even trying to say? I wasn't sure. But I do think some of it was beautiful and lyrical and everything, but like I said, some of it I was just what are you even trying to say? Which I have seen as a pretty big complaint about this book from other people in their reviews. So anyway, she goes through that whole trial thing with that other clan and ends up eventually finding Khan again. I won't give too many spoilers or anything. And we learn more about her history and how, like I said, those journal entries tie into everything and why Khan recognized her and all that. And I will probably read the next book. This wasn't anything groundbreaking for me, especially because it was so hyped up. I really expected it to be, but it really wasn't that, which is fine. Not all books are going to be like that. But I still wanted to do a spread because I love dragons. Honestly, that's why. And I was really excited to put this spread together because I wanted to use these really cool PET stickers from the washi tape shop. And they actually gifted me these, so thank you to them for that. And I paired them with this dragon mountainous washi tape that I got from an Etsy shop. And I think that they worked really well together. And I basically layered the stickers on the bottom and the top to create my own washi tape border, I guess, on the bottom and the top. And I think that it looks really cool. I really, really love how it turned out. And then I also did something different in this spread that I only have one page for the actual spread for the book. and then the other page is just a quote page. And I kind of struggled my way through these. I made some spelling mistakes that I had to fix with whiteout and everything. I think I did this at 4 in the morning, so that's probably why. But the quote that I chose was, "Sadness is like stones that stack inside you, making it harder to move." And I really liked that. It was a good explanation of grief, in my opinion. And I enjoyed that quote. Like I said, there was a lot of kind of lyricalness to the writing style that I wasn't 100% sold on, but sometimes it did hit. And this was one of the times that I thought it was good. And then I also used a sticker from Mushyworks, and I absolutely love that sticker with the book in the hands and the dragons. And I finished off the whole spread with some dots and sparkles with my marker. And overall, though this book wasn't perfect for me, I do really like how this spread itself turned out. So that was it for my September spreads, and we are moving on to my October cover page. And of course I had to go with a Halloween theme, so I used these Maragona Sully art stickers and washi tape that are purple and orange and totally Halloween vibes. And I will continue to do these reading journal catch-up videos because, of course, I need to finish my 2024 journal. And I'm hoping to do a flip through of that 2024 journal in February. So look forward to October, November, and December coming up soon. I had a pretty good end of my year as far as reading goes. I just fell behind in tracking my reading and filling out my reading journal. But life has been lifing, if you know what I mean. So I will do it as I am able to because this is my hobby and I am so delighted to be able to share it with you all. 2024 was definitely such a special year for me as far as my YouTube channel goes. I'm so appreciative of the support for the reading journal videos. And in 2025, I will continue to post my reading journal videos. And I also do hope to get back into my Animal Crossing content. So look forward to that as well. But yes, so this spread, like I said, I have all the Halloween vibes. I'm doing a really cute witch sticker on the left side, as well as some smaller Halloween stickers. I really love the characters in their costumes, and of course the bat and the potion bottle, the cauldron, the pumpkin, the candy corn, the witch hat. It all is so cute and some of my favorite things. And then I also added a cauldron full of candy and a little pumpkin stack by my title of October books. And I'm finishing off the cover page with some dots and sparkles with my purple marker. And of course, filling in the shelf on my cover page as well with my marker. And that is it for this reading journal update. All right, everyone. Thank you so much for watching. I definitely think that this month had some of my best reading journal spreads of the whole year. So if you enjoyed this one, be sure to leave a like and a comment down below. And if you'd like to see more from me, be sure to hit subscribe. I hope that you and yours are staying safe, happy, and healthy, and I will see you again next time. Thanks again for watching. Bye-bye!